Hello and welcome to that Eurovision Site's YouTube channel. My name is Jazzy. My pronouns are she, her, and joining me today is.
Hi, it's Stuart again. I'm from Glenroe, Scotland.
Today we will be talking about the Danish national final Dansk Melodi Grand Prix, which was won by Reiley with the song Breaking My Heart, while Nicholas Son and Mickey Scheel came runners up with their songs Freedom and Glanspiel. My first question would have to just be, what are your thoughts on Reiley winning Dance Melody Grand Prix 2023?
I think from the lineup, I think it was the right choice. It stuck out enough so I think that's why it won. Um, uh, from this lineup as well, I think it was probably the best choice it could have went for. I would say that it benefits from maybe multiple listens, which is not always the best thing in Eurovision when you're trying to make your impact on your first performance. But if they can get the staging right, I think it is the right choice from that lineup. I'd say it's quite catchy and it's a bit of an earworm, so it does stick with you. It reminds me of like songs from the noughties, like the Scandinavian kind of actually alphabet. They were Danish, and it does. I'm not comparing them, mind, but there is a wee bit of an echo there. So I like it for that. So yeah, I think they made a right choice from what they had.
This song is definitely a song that is growing on me. I think, as Stuart said, that could be a bit of a problem when it comes to Eurovision because obviously most people that are watching Eurovision listen to the song for the first time on the night. It for me, it wasn't my favorite in the national final, but I can see why it won at the same time. The verses I really, really like. Um, the, the issues I'm having come with the chorus, and I think it's because of that auto-tuney sound that the chorus has that just isn't to my taste, and it will be for other people. It's just not my thing. This is like no like slant on Reiley, like it's just not for me. But I'm getting there with the song slowly. It's definitely not one of my least favorites this year because as we're recording, we've got all 37 songs today, and it's definitely not like in my bottom 10. So it's it's okay for me. Reiley is clearly a good performer, and he sold the song really well in the national final. So that is something that will definitely go in his favour. And it's nice to see Faroese representation in Eurovision. It's always nice to see these small countries get their like the representation because they don't take part in the contest, although they should. Because Reiley is originally from the Faroe Islands, and I just think that is a really, really nice touch to have in the contest this year. And yeah, I think he was one of the best choices. So yeah. So we're going to go a little bit more into Eurovision, how well Breaking Heart could do in the contest. Denmark haven't qualified for the last couple of years, rightly or wrongly. I actually think their last two entries should have qualified and probably been their better entries. But can Denmark get back into the final with this song?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I know what you said, and actually, I agree with you that kind of that vocoder, and that's not going to be to everybody's taste. I think that's what its hook is. I think that's what makes it stand out. Uh, I don't know actually what the rules are about that because you're not allowed your main vocals have to be live, don't they? So there's a bit of a question about that. I mean, there was Joust from 2017 that kind of had a bit of an effect, and of course, Netta had used the looper. So there's questions about how that's going to be done for me. I'm not 100% sure. But I think that's what its hook is, and I think that's what will attract people to it, is that kind of that bit of the chorus that's just a very much an earworm. I don't think it's going to be Denmark's fourth win. I don't think that's happening this year. Sorry to disappoint Danish fans. But I do think it will make the final. I've seen comments on social media and stuff. I know a lot of people are on the bubble about this one. There is people that think it's actually not going to go through, but looking at the semi lineup for that, I think I can see it being in the top 10 and getting on by to the final. But then the thing that I noted about it in the national final, it was actually the jury that bumped up Reiley's score so that he won the national final. And of course, this year is going to be different because there's no, apart from San Marino, I think there's no jury vote in the semi-final unless it's used as a backup. So he's going to have to rely on televote to get him into the final. I think he'll be able to do it. I think he'll get in there. And then when it gets to the final, I don't think it's going to leave much of a mark on the night, to be honest. I think it's going to be a tough competition for it. So I don't see it getting the scoreboard alight. I think it's going to stay on the right side. I think it'll do well if it gets in the top 20. I'm not predicting a top 20 finish for it. But it can do it. It all depends on, of course, like every song, the staging.
This is I think this can absolutely get Denmark back in the final. I see no reason why it can't. Like, it's, in my opinion, in the weaker semi. I think if this was in semi-final one, I would have a few more concerns about this making it. And although the auto tune sounding part isn't for me, it will stand out among the other pop songs in the semi-final for that reason. Reiley also has a big following on TikTok internationally. So again, I feel there is a fan base that will vote for him, especially as a lot of his fan base comes from K-pop fans. So I do see there being an international televote there for him. I feel like this will help him, especially in the rest of the world vote, where like America, Canada are voting, because I can see them going towards this song because it has that very American Canadian sound to it. I could see them like drifting towards voting for it. If they do vote in the rest of the world vote, of course, which I think helps his chances of qualifying. As I said, semi two, I think is probably the weaker semi of the two. So I think that also gives him just more of a chance. And I don't think he's going to have many issues getting through that semi. I'm going to echo what Stuart said. I think once he's in the final, I don't know how well it's going to go for him. But obviously, wish him the best of luck. And I hope this does do well in the final because just nice to see Denmark back in like the top 20 or back on the left hand side, just so like it gives them that kick to like kick on and do even better next year. So I want to see this do well because I want Denmark to just get back to their best, and I feel like they just need that one good result to do that. And I think this could give them it, but who knows? But there were obviously 7 other songs in this national final. Were there any of the other 7 songs that left any sort of impression on you? Any sort of favourites you want to talk about?
From that lineup of 8, there was one. I could be honest about the lineup. It just wasn't. For me, it was fairly bland and pretty unremarkable, apart from maybe a couple of other songs. For me, the song "Human" by Mariah was the one that stuck out for me. I just really liked that song. It took me back to when I'm listening to it. For me, it's like a 2007-ish song where it's that kind of indie but not really indie thing. So I liked it for that. The performance as well definitely caught my attention. It was like Bucks Fizz but to the maximum level where everything was coming off. So I really enjoyed that one. But I can understand why that wasn't in the top 3. That I think that was just kind of you either like it or you didn't with that, or you didn't get it with that one. So that was the kind of song that stuck out for me, quite wild and vibrant, and I loved it for that. I thought Lang Hair was a really lovely song. It wasn't something that kind of stuck with me too much, but it was just when I was going through them again. But to be fair, that performance was quite authentic. Um, so that's one that does stand out, and I feel that should have been in the super final. It's always a controversial thing. There's pros and cons to doing that kind of super final thing in national finals. But if they were going to do it, I just I would have liked to see that song there because it was a really to a high standard. The other song that I wanted to talk about was "Beautiful TES." Uh, we're safe, we're safe. I felt that it could have stood out more if it had better stage, and I think that was one that people were talking about beforehand. That it just fell flat, and I don't think it was the best possible for performance of that song, so it didn't stick with people. Um, but yeah, for me, I just wanted to stay out of the 8 songs. Of course, breaking your heart. Like I said before, I'll stand by that was probably the best pick for Denmark out of this lineup. But I just wanted to give out a shout to Human because I really enjoyed that song and I'm still listening to it. So just wanted to give that one a shout out.
I ended up actually enjoying quite a few of these when I've listened to them back. I really enjoyed Nicholas Sean's performance of Freedom. It had an energy and he knew how to work the crowd in Denmark. However, I do think it's actually a good thing he didn't win because there is quite a few rock entries in the contest this year. And I don't know whether he just stood out. I think Australia are in his semi as well. And I just think Promise is just a better song than Freedom. So I think it's probably a good thing for Denmark that this didn't win the national final. Because I think if there hadn't been a super final, he probably would have done. And obviously that's where the controversies came in. But I actually think it's a good thing for Denmark that he didn't win just because there's a lot of rock entries in the contest already. I also really enjoyed Aria's song, I Was Gonna Marry Him. It was kind of a mid-tempo country, or it had a bit of a dark vibe to it, but it wasn't like massively dark. It didn't really stand out on the stage, but in the studio, I really enjoyed it. Like, and I don't think we have a country song in Eurovision this year. If I can't think of one anyway. Um, so it may have stood out for that reason because it would have been the only song in that genre, but it didn't even make the super final. I know it was a massive fan favorite as well, so I imagine like quite a few people were upset on the night that did not make the super final. I also really enjoyed Licha by Søren Topjard Lund. It was simple and it was beautiful and elegant, and that made it stand out. And again, surprised this didn't make the super final because there was just something like there was a lot of the songs were like up tempo, mid tempo. I think this was the only ballad in the national selection, and it was just so simple. And like everybody else was I think, were trying to do too much, and this was just simple, and it just worked. And yeah, it should have been in the super final. And honestly, I would have loved to see them send a song in Danish. Like they did it in 2021. Obviously, they didn't qualify, but obviously the less said about that, the better. Um, but it was all in all, I enjoyed watching this national final, and I've enjoyed going through it as well, even though it was quite a while ago. So it's like I've definitely had to re-jog my memory quite a bit and had to re-watch some of these performances to get this together. But we've got there. We've got a recap out for it now. Yay! This takes us to the end of this recap video, actually, and I would like to thank Stuart for joining me today to talk about the Danish selection. Make sure if you liked this video, give us a like and subscribe to our channel, That Eurovision site. Also, be sure to check out That Euro site on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for all your Eurovision 2023 updates in the run-up to Liverpool. Also, make sure you check out That Eurovision podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and give us a like over there so you can be notified when a new episode comes out. Because we have a lot of podcast content coming out that we are preparing and that we're excited for. So, in the run up to Liverpool in the next few weeks, which, yeah, so excited for. And all that's left for us now is to say bye.
Bye.
Bye.